yesterday we learned about early humans and India. So we learned about different ages through which humans actually evolved. The first age that we learned was the Stone Age. And then we learned about the Mesolithic age. Then we learned about the Paleolithic age. So there were 3 ages where the humans actually evolved and they came to India. And we ended the class with civilization, about civilization. So civilization happens when collectively people from different communities start living together and have one code of conduct. What do I mean by that? Is now, for example, you're in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Mumbai, right? And you have different people in your colony, right? So all of you are living together. So that is called a civilization with one code of conduct, which is, for example, stealing is bad. All of us follow that, right? So we have similar code of conduct. And this makes us a civilized society where we all are living together, right? Now, moving on, after that, what happened when people got civilized? Then came the new civilizations where people started to come and form different cities. They started to come and form different groups where they can live together, right? So where did they start doing that? I told you yesterday, they started doing that on the river tributaries, on the banks of the rivers. And why did they do so? They did so because they can do agriculture. They can have plenty of water, which they can use for agriculture and for their food, right? Because early humans were dependent on animals. They used to kill animals and eat them. But eventually, they knew what is agriculture, which is nothing but they made their own food by growing different plants. And because of that, they started living on river tributaries. And one such popular big civilization happened in ancient India, right? Like today, India is not India, which you see today. The ancient India had India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh as a big, huge part called India. Today we have a small India, but back then we had a big, big India. So in that big India, there flew a river called Indus, okay? And on the banks of that river happened a civilization called the Indus Valley Civilization. And from Indus Valley Civilization, 2 big cities flourished. 2 big cities. Which were those 2 cities? Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. They were 2 big cities which came after that civilization. And after that, what happened when people started to live? Now they knew how to. Then they do something more. There should be something that can bind all of us together. And what could that be? Remember in yesterday's class, I told you early humans never had gods. They used to worship nature. They used to worship rain. They used to worship fire. So what they thought? What can bring us together? A community, a same concept. So after that, Indus Valley Civilization happened. Very, very soon came another civilization which was called the Vedic civilization. Okay, so what happened in Vedic civilization? I'll tell you now. So until now we are clear. In Indus Valley Civilization, people did agriculture, they had food, they made huge buildings, they had great sanitation system. In fact, I told you right yesterday a fun fact that they had buildings and they had houses which had bathrooms attached inside. Imagine thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, they had houses with all the facilities. Now then they realized, what can keep us together? What can keep so many human beings together? But not, because not everyone is same. So what they decided, that we need to have some principles. We should have some rule book. So now what can that rule book be? In today's India, what is that rule book called? It is called Constitution of India. Constitution of India gives us rules, and because of those rules, the whole India is governed. Okay. Similarly, back in that civilization, they thought there should be some rules, and they came up with Vedas. Okay. So there were 4 Vedas that they came up with, 4 rule books that they came up with, which had all the teachings as to how a human should be, how should he be educated, what is the code of conduct he should follow, how should the society come into existence, how should all of us behave to coexist together, otherwise we will start killing and hitting each other, right? So for all of us to live peacefully and become better human beings, some big, great teachers came and they created 4 rule books, which were called 4 Vedas. Now, which were these 4 Vedas? The first Veda was Rig Veda. I want you all to write this because I'm going to be holding a quiz just after this class. So, the first Veda was the Rig Veda. After the Rig Veda came the Sama Veda. And after the Sama Veda came Yajur Veda. And just after Yajur Veda came Atharva Veda happened. So, which are the 4 Vedas? The 4 Vedas are, the first one is the Rig Veda. The Rig Veda, you can see the spelling here. This was our first rule book. The Rig Veda. Ashwi, you can look at the screen, Ashwi. This is the name.
To write again.
Yes, there are 4 Vedas. Look at this. Look at my screen. There are 4 Vedas. Okay. The first one is Rig Veda. The second one is Sama Veda. The third one is Yajur Veda. And the fourth one is Atharva Veda. I want you guys to remember this and write it down, okay? Now, what are these Vedas? They were the rule books. Now, suddenly what happened in the society? Because these rule books were created, society now thought that we all should be divided into different groups. And how will we be divided into different groups? Based on our occupation. What do you mean by occupation? Occupation is something that a person does for a living. Okay? Occupation is something that a person does for his living. So, basis the occupation, the Rig Veda divided the society into 4 clans. The first one was the Brahmins. The Brahmins were the priests and teachers. So, Brahmins were priests and teachers. They used to go to the temple and they used to worship. They used to take care of the god. They used to do all the teaching in the temple. So, they were the Brahmins, the first one. The second one here were Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas were the warriors. They were great warriors. All your great kings were Kshatriyas. Okay? The third category that Rig Veda divided a person was Vaishya. Who was a Vaishya? One who did some business. For example, agriculture. For example, trading. So the one who had a small little shop or was a fruit vendor or sold vegetables was a Vaishya. Okay, he was a Vaishya. And the fourth category that they divided everyone into were Shudras. Shudras were the general working class. These were the people who did all the other jobs like cleaning the roads, keeping the sanitation, the sanitation facilities well, taking care of everything else. So all the administrative work. Yes.
After Rigveda,
Here, Ashvi, you have to focus. It is Samaveda, Yajurveda, and Atharvaveda. Okay, just this line. Write this down. Okay. And I'm going to take your questions later, Ashvi. Let's finish the session. So, there were 4 categories that Rigveda divided all the people into. The first one were Brahmins, who were the priests. The second one were the Kshatriyas, who were the warriors, the kings. The third category was Vaishyas, who did all the agricultural and business work. And the fourth category of people were the Shudras, who did all the administrative work. Okay. Now, based these 4 categories, the whole Hindu society came into existence. So even today, our Hindu society follows these 4 categories. Even today, we have this turned into a caste system also. So the basis of Hinduism came from this concept that Rigveda gave, which divided all the people basis their occupation into 4 categories. Okay. Next, what happened? Now, all of this was happening in India. Suddenly, what happens is we are attacked by Persians and Greeks. Now, I want you to imagine the Indian map. Okay. If you see India, on the top of India, you have Pakistan and Afghanistan, right? And you move completely right towards that, you'll find the next continent, which is Europe, right? So with Asia, you will find Europe, and Greece is in Europe, okay? So we had people coming from Greece towards India. They came to Persia, which was the central part of Asia. So through Greece, they came to Persia, and from Persia, they start flooding down towards India. So soon what happened? Because this invasion happened, there were so many different foreign teachings that came to India. So in Greece, there is a different concept of God. And in India, we had a very different concept of God. In India, Rigveda divided us into 4 categories. Like I just mentioned, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. But Greek people believed in a different philosophy. But they slowly started getting their philosophies to India. And very soon, most of the philosophies that came from there turned into different religion which you see today, like Buddhism, like Jainism. So that happened from Persia and Greek. And from Persia came one important clan, which was Aryans. They are called Aryans, Aryans. They were the people who came down to India. Their height was about 10 feet. They were tall. They had a great build, and they were very fair. Okay, that's how history describes Aryans. So Aryans slowly came down to India, and the first ever Indian kingdom was then made in ancient India. So the civilization now slowly turned into a province, and then it became a kingdom. So if I have to give you an example, the example would be, let's say if you're from Karnataka, right? What happened? Slowly people came and they made Bangalore. Once they made Bangalore, more people came and they made other parts of Karnataka like Bijapur, Davangere, Shimoga, and others. when they made all that together, there was one big state which came into existence, and that is Karnataka, right? So exactly the same way, when Indus Valley civilization happened, slowly they started settling on the bank of River Indus, and they came down. Okay, River Indus is today in the eastern Pakistan. Okay, so from there they started coming down towards India, and they went to Bihar. Okay, and everyone started settling down there on the banks of the river Ganges. And when they started settling down there, huge community was built, and that huge community then became a kingdom, because then came a very important king who ruled everyone over there. Okay, and the famous king of the Magadha Empire was the Maurya dynasty. We have the Chandragupta Maurya, and then we have Ashoka. Do you know about King Ashoka? Does anyone know about
Ashoka the Great.
Yes, Ashoka the Great. Why do we call him Ashoka the Great?
Ma'am, because he was a great king.
Because he was a great king. Why was he a great king? Because he almost covered the entire region which he wanted to capture. He covered everything. And once he covered
Excuse me,
everything,
ma'am.
yes,
Excuse me, ma'am, but Alexander the Great captured almost the whole world.
yes, Alexander the Great did that. But when
And he never suffered a single defeat.
that's right. But do you know what happened when Alexander the Great came to India? What happened when Alexander the Great came to India? Does anyone fact? So I think I reserve this story for another day, when I can tell you what happens when Alexander comes to India and to capture India. So Alexander travels the whole world, and he starts capturing everything. Similarly, Ashoka in India captures the entire country. Okay, but what he does after that is brilliant. He leaves everything and he goes away and follows Buddhism. He leaves his kingdom, he leaves everything, because he understands at the end of it that there is no point of this bloodshed. There is so much bloodshed which happens every time I do a war. So many of my soldiers are dying just because I'm capturing every town and province and a kingdom. So many people are dying, right? So he realizes that, and then he slowly leaves everything, and then he works towards Buddhism and the improvement of society. Okay. Now, what happens when the Magadha kingdom comes? Let's learn about the Magadha
Excuse me,
kingdom.
ma'am.
Yeah.
Can you please tell one thing?
Yes.
Ma'am, like there is Jainism, Hinduism, and Buddhism. Are there any more isms?
Yes, there are many other isms also. They're not called isms. Okay. Okay. So I'll have to explain you that. Why is it called an ism? It's not an ism. So yeah. So basically, collectively, we call a group of people as this. But there are a lot of other isms if you want to know, and I will tell you about that later in the class today. So remind me at the end of the class, okay? Now let's just complete this bit of the Magadha Empire. So this Magadha Empire, okay, can somebody, can I just request you to go on mute? Thank you so much. So the whole of Bihar, Bengal, everybody falls under this empire, and two big religions emerge out of this. Which are those two big religions? One is Jainism and the other one is Buddhism. And all other great texts that you see about Ramayana, Mahabharata, and all other important things that have happened in the Hinduism comes from the Magadha Empire. Okay, So Magadha Empire played an important role and a very significant role in shaping today's India, and at least shaping a lot of the concepts that Hinduism now shares with us. Everything comes from Magadha Empire. Okay, so slowly what happens? Magadha is in the eastern India. Completely from the north to the east, you have the Magadha Empire. Down south, suddenly something happens. There is one big kingdom that emerges even in south, and they are called the Satavahanas. And the Satavahanas back then were also called the Andhras. They were called the Andhras. And do you see this whole kingdom here? They took this whole thing was theirs. The whole Satavahana empire was this. You see Kalinga, Pataliputra and all other things like Taxila and everything was Magadha Empire. And this part over here that you see are all Satavahanas. They were huge. They flourished in the complete south and central of India. After that, what happens? There is another thing that comes in India. Another development happens. And they are the Sakas. The Sakas are from the western Kshatrapas, which you see over here, right? This is mostly the Gujarat and the Maharashtra region of today, right? So in these states, there comes a new ruler who's called a Saka, okay? And what he does, he divides his whole kingdom into single provinces, and there are about 27 independent rulers who independently rule this particular region, which is called the Kshatrapas. What is it called? The Kshatrapas. So Kshatrapas were in the western India, right? South we had the Satavahanas, north and east we had our Magadha Empire, and in the west we had the Kshatrapas. Okay, so this is the western Kshatrapas that we had. So what happens after that? There are so many other kingdoms which keep coming during this era. Now all of this that I'm speaking to you is continuity from human evolution to civilization. From civilization arose the concept of Vedas, which can keep people together, and Vedic civilization happened. From Vedic civilization, we moved towards something called a king rule. From the king's rule, the first important and significant kingdom of India came into existence, which was the Magadha Empire in north and east. And then in south, we had the Satavahanas, and in the west, we had the Kshatrapas. Okay? Understood? Clear until here? What happens then? Now this is divided into different things. See, this was India before. Do you see all of this land here? This was India. It is so huge. And today we have just this. Right? We just have only this here left, but we had all of this before. So if you ever happen to watch any of these episodes of Mahabharata and Ramayana, which came on the DD National the last lockdown, you should have seen when they make a war strategy, they place a map. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. We can showcase it sometime for you. They place a map when they want to do a war strategy, and they make a strategy, how do we go kill the other person, the kingdoms. So they have a map, and in that map, if you see, they show the real India, which is so huge. All of the Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh, everything is just covered there. Their whole outline of the map is so different than the one we have here today. So I'll encourage all of you to go and watch those, shows, and you'll understand how did those old maps look like. Okay, just to get a perspective of what was India before independence. If not even independence, that was actually modern India. but I'm speaking about the ancient India and early middle India. Okay, you would get a insight on how that looked like. Then suddenly, what happened is there came a tribe. The tribe were called the Indo-Scythians. The Indo-Scythians happened to come from Siberia. Okay, they came from Siberia, passing down to Kashmir and that belt. So just right here, if you see all this, it's Bactria, Pamir, all of this, which is upwards toward Kashmir. You see this? You see this area? So Siberians came here and they flourished an empire over here. Okay, and that empire was called the Indo-Scythian Empire, right? And who were the rulers of these empires? You had a mixed ruler, the Indo-Greek rulers, who ruled this particular empire. And after that, what happened? We moved on, and then came a very, very interesting dynasty in the history of India, which is called the Gupta dynasty. Now, I spoke to you about the Western Kshatrapas, right? So, what did Guptas do? They went and they captured everything. They captured the complete West, East. They had Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Gujarat, everything under their control. And that's how the Gupta dynasty became so huge. And this was one of the largest dynasties in India. And if you could see different things from their dynasty over here, that, you know, they were pro-Buddhists. They popularized Buddhism in India, right? And hence, if you see all of their artifacts, all the artwork that they have done, and what the kingdom looked like and what their coins look like, you'll see Buddha on everything, mostly. Okay, so if you see, this is a Buddha image. This is again a Tirthankara. The concept of Tirthankara comes from Jainism. So Jainism treats their god into 24 Tirthankaras. So Jainism has 24 gods, which are prominent in making Jainism. So each of the god is called a Tirthankar. Okay, so this is a Tirthankara, and back then I told you yesterday that we had gold coins and silver coins in the kingdoms. We never had these steel and other metal coins back then. So the kingdoms were rich. They were very, very rich, and they used to have all these gold coins. Tomorrow, when I speak to you about the later Middle Kingdoms and the Delhi Sultanate, I'm going to talk to you about a very prominent dynasty in the history of India, which is the Vijayanagar Empire. Vijayanagar Empire was such a huge empire and such a rich empire that they used to sell these gold and silver coins on the road. Just like you find the fruits and vegetables while you pass the road and you have those vendors. Back then, the Vijayanagar Empire used to sell coins on the road, and the dynasty was so rich that they had everything which is precious sold on sold on road. So that's how rich the Vijayanagar Empire was, and I'm going to speak to you about it tomorrow. So these were the few things that I wanted to tell you about the Gupta Empire. If you want to know more about this empire, you should definitely visit Ellora, Elephanta. Those are in Maharashtra of today. You have to go visit them. Check out the caves over there. There are different caves in Ellora, and Elephanta is also a cave. Ajanta is also a place. Ajanta, Ellora, it is one historical trip that you can do. And if you go to those caves today and you will see all the nice carving of Buddha, of different things that they did in that time. So please do visit when you get a chance to Ajanta and Ellora. Okay, it's just in Maharashtra and very near to Mumbai. So the last thing today that I want to conclude this part would be with the invasion. So who were these Huns? Do you know who were Huns? So Huns were a group of people who came and settled in Afghanistan. They were very powerful, very, very powerful, and as I told you, Afghanistan was then in India itself, right? And they later started coming. They looked something like this. They were extremely powerful, and they had huge horses, and they were warriors. Okay, they came to India slowly down towards the Gupta dynasty, and they started killing everyone there. They waged war against the Gupta dynasty. They waged war against every powerful dynasty that existed in that India. So one popular person or an emperor from Gupta dynasty then was the Skandagupta. Skandagupta was very, very famous, and in with his leadership, the dynasty fought back, and but they couldn't really win against them, and they were badly affected. So when they started coming down towards the Deccan Plateau, we had the great kings who stopped them. So Huns were just stopped in the middle India and couldn't come down to the Deccan Plateau, and all the damage that they created was until the middle India. So down south, we weren't that affected, and the down south remained peaceful. And with this, Huns also mixed up with the Indians of that time. And now, after this comes the different dynasty, the famous ones in the later India. And from there, we are going to go to the Delhi Sultanate. And from that, we are going to learn about the Indian independence.